Welcome back, everybody. I'm Kyle,
I'm Brad.
and welcome back to the Jocks of All Trades podcast.
Jocks of all trades. Jocks of all trades.
Awesome. So on this one, guys, we are doing our live mock draft 3.0, Jock Mock 3.0. A little bit different this time. Still excited. It's a little bit different, but we're still excited to do it. So we're going to start off with but before that, let's talk about our next podcast that we're doing. Guys, listen up right now. If you're tuning in, keep tuning in. So we are going to have Jason Poeth, who is the assistant strength and conditioning coach for Alabama. He's been with Nick Saban most of Nick Saban's career in LSU and at Alabama. He's been there a long time. He's interacted with a bunch of really good Alabama players and staff. And I mean, I'm excited just to interview him and hear what he's talking about, his experiences with Saban, with the players, what all he's involved with on like game day prep and strength and conditioning, getting these guys to like an NFL level. Because let's be real, most Alabama's players get to that NFL level physically, they get there. So, and not only that, but like scouting stuff or draft stuff, I think it would just be super exciting to hear from him. And it's going to be, I'm so excited, not only for this podcast, but for our own personal joy. I mean, Brad, you're an Alabama fan. We're both college football fans, both draft guys as well. So we're super excited to have Jason on. And that'll be tentatively Tuesday, April 4th, at 7:45 p.m. That's what we're penciling in. So we're super excited for that. But right now, we're doing our Jock Mock 3.0, like we said. And who's at number one?
First, we have the Carolina Panthers after their blockbuster trade with the Bears. Kyle, who do you have going number one overall?
Again, I did this a little bit differently, but still things that I think can happen. And so I have the Panthers selecting Bryce Young, quarterback out of Alabama. Like we said, different flavors of quarterbacks. I think Frank Reich, to the GM, to the owner, I think they all want different guys. That's what we've been hearing. So I think it's entirely possible that they come out of this and say, Bryce Young's the guy. So I'm going Bryce Young, Alabama, at number one.
I've been waiting to talk about this because I put Bryce Young and I went back and changed it. Because Josh McCown and his big old mouth sitting there talking about playing a game of horse. Oh, when you live here. I was like, bro, you can't say stuff like that. Everybody's recording at those things. They're going to hear what you say. So I think the preferred pick is Stroud, but I don't think Bryce Young is out of it. So I agree with you. He could very much still be in it. But for me, I had Stroud because Josh McCown is a big old doofus and decided to say something public.
Yeah, not great. Not great for their strategy here of possibly trading out number one. I don't think that's going to happen anyway. But moving on to number two, the Houston Texans. I have them taking the next quarterback here, C.J. Stroud, for the very same reasons. I think he's the second best quarterback in this class. People could put him ahead of Bryce Young. I wouldn't really debate you on that. I don't have the energy to do that. But good quarterback, great pocket passer. Hopefully Texans can continue to surround him with talent if they get him. So C.J. Stroud to the Texans at number two.
And I'll pretty much give the same reasons for throwing Bryce here, second best quarterback. Good fit for him. I hope they kind of have loaded up a little bit on offense. It's not exactly blockbuster guys, but solid players.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they are preparing for their next man up, and I think it might be Bryce.
For sure. Pick number three, the Cardinals. Here is where it gets a little bit different. I have the Cardinals taking Christian Gonzalez, corner out of Oregon. The Cardinals need a lot. We've said that time and time again. They need help pretty much everywhere. I would argue they need help at quarterback too, because I don't like Kyler, but they're not going to do that. Offensive line, defensive line, an issue. However, this guy's a freak. And we saw Derek Stingley rise up to number 3 last year? Ahmad Gardner in the top 5, top 6. So I think it's entirely possible for the Cardinals to get a stud corner, and they need one. They lost Byron Murphy in free agency, right? Patrick Peterson days are way behind them. They need a stud corner, and I think Gonzalez is one for the picking.
I'm going to make a similar argument for a different reason. This secondary class, Kyle, I think we've talked about this a little bit, is extremely deep. I think you get the top 3 birds, Gonzalez, Porter, and Witherspoon. And then outside of that, it's kind of a toss-up as to who's next to go up, but somebody will because they're all talented. With that being said, I think they're just going to pick the biggest guy here, and I think that's Will Anderson in terms of having a massive impact. You don't have Watt anymore. I don't really think they have anybody scary anyways on that D-line. It would be nice to have a guy that's been a leader on a really good Alabama defense. Didn't always play the best, but a really talented defense, and he stood out most of the time. So I think that would be a good building block for the Cards, take some pressure off of Kyler, hopefully, because Kyler has like 8 receivers, so there's no reason why he shouldn't be performing. But that's where I'm going with the Cards.
Nice. Number 4, we have the Colts, and I have them taking Anthony Richardson here. I think this is a no-brainer pick. Like we've talked about, Shane Steichen dealing with Jalen Hurts with the Eagles, running a similar type of system with Anthony Richardson. I think that's a match made in heaven. Now, they did go out and get – who did they get? The Gardner Minshew from the Eagles. And I don't think that's a tremendous addition, but one that I think can platoon AR-15 for a while and let them develop. So, Anthony Richardson to the Colts. They're going to make it easy for him, I think. I think this is a good fit.
Here's where things get spicy. Let's go ahead and start it out. Lamar Jackson to the Colts for pick 4, 2023 third and a 5th, and a 2024 first and a 2nd. Is it expensive? Yes, it is. Could this also solve the Colts' problems for multiple years? Yes. So let's play pros and cons here for a second. Cons, the Colts have already kind of said they don't like the hefty asking price, but the problem here is for the Colts. If you're not in love with anyone outside of CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, you need to look elsewhere because the draft ain't going to be it for you. Because there is no way those 2 guys fall to 4. So now you really have to ask yourself, what do you want? Do you want AR-15, who could be the guy, or he could be a bust? The Colts cannot afford another bust. Here's another con. Ballard does not like giving out guaranteed contracts. It is proven through Colts history. He just does not like to do it, which the problem is Lamar wants a guaranteed contract. However, if you could convince him to say, hey, you go out there, you bust it for 2 years, I'll give you a guaranteed contract. Prove to me that you're not injury prone. Prove to me that you're that guy, and I'll give you the money. And I think Lamar would jump at it because right now the Ravens are literally just sitting going, you got nowhere to go, bud. You're coming back. It's not like they're exactly offering him like the house, especially when your option of what you've signed is Nelson Aguilar. That's not sexy. So I think Lamar will go, but I don't think it'll happen until draft night when teams start getting really desperate for a quarterback.
Yeah, I think the whole guaranteed contract thing is a big issue. Lamar has stated that he wants a guaranteed contract, but I think he's done asking for teams to prove it. Like, I think he's done. I think for him, he's like, I'm done proving it. Like, I've proved the last 5 years like what I can do. And if you think I'm injury prone, I don't care. Like, I think I'm one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think he's just done proving it to people. And you could be on both sides of that coin. You could be like, I think you need to prove it because you haven't shown that you've been fully healthy or done well in the playoffs. And the other side of that is, yes, he has. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Like, what are you watching, you idiot? So I think, there's both sides to that. And it's just like what team will be on that right side and trade for him. So it'll be interesting. But I think you're right. Draft day, people get a little antsy and big things can happen. So
this is not the spiciest trade I have in this mock, surprisingly. So Ravens are now at 4. I have the Ravens taking Anthony Richardson because as soon as you move Lamar, you've got all that other capital to go fill holes where you need to.
Yeah.
Go get a quarterback, and it's going to be Anthony Richardson because Levis just doesn't strike me as a Ravens type of quarterback. Anthony Richardson kind of does have that Lamar-esque style of play. Little Cam Newton, not exactly Cam Newton, but like Cam Newton if Cam Newton was like Coors Light. So anyways, that's what I have it for. So let's move on to 5.
All right. Number 5, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking Tyree Wilson. That's right. Tyree Wilson, defensive end out of Texas Tech. I debated taking Wilson or Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. I think Carter will fall, and I think it's a toss-up between Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson. I think Tyree is more of a 4-3 outside defensive end, can play the run and the pass. I think Will Anderson, I think he can probably be versatile in every scheme. I just think some teams will want Tyree Wilson, who's more of a lockdown 4-3 defensive end outside guy that can play the run and the pass, do a little bit of everything for you. I don't know if they're going to bank on Will Anderson being the kind of do-it-all guy. He might just be that pure pass rusher. So it's a toss-up, though. I think they'd be happy with either 3 of those guys. So
sorry, I had cam issues there for a second. I caught most of it. But yeah, Tyree, he's a freak. He's a big guy. It would make sense that they go after somebody that can make a big impact early. I kind of had the same thought, but I can't get away with how good Jalen Carter is. I think teams will be absolutely 1,000% hesitant. But I think at the end of the day, he's not Ray Lewis, like he's not that bad that I think teams will say, okay, this was kind of like a slap on the wrist. Can you prove to us that you have the leadership skills and character skills to be better? If you do, let's take him. Let's take the gamble. Because honestly, he is one of those players, and you're not going to like this, that either in a couple years we won't even remember who he is, or in a couple years he'll be dominating the league. It's one of those two. It really is. So I think it's hard for teams to look at him and look at, the stuff that he's done and say, we're done with him. I just don't, because the Seahawks are going to regret it. You let him go, the Lions will snap him up. The Eagles could snap him up at 10. Like somebody's going to take him in the top 10 if you don't. So
can't wait till you see mine. All right. Next one, pick 6. I have the Lions taking Will Anderson here. I just think pairing up Will and Hutchinson is a good combo. I think Hutchinson, Tyree Wilson are a little bit too alike, but getting a pass rusher like Will Anderson, a chess piece, as they would say, putting him all around. They did a lot of work in the offseason picking up pieces for their secondary. But I think it's now time to focus on pass rush and getting home with that. And I think they'd be ecstatic to get Will Anderson here.
I did have Tyree, and I know he's very similar to Hutchinson, but I think that's kind of a benefit. I'll take the other side of the coin on this one, is that you can flop them around. You can flop sides of the field. Suddenly you have to worry about, hey, Hutchinson on this side instead of that side. Wilson's over here, and suddenly he moved inside, and now he's playing inside with the tackles. Like, you could do a whole lot with Wilson that you can't do with Hutchinson, even though they play similarly, because Wilson's just that much bigger and much more athletic. And he's a better version of Hutchinson. So if I were Lions fans, I'd be drooling all over the fact that you could get both of these guys on your defense.
Yeah, for sure. Pick number 7. I don't think you're going to like this one. I have the Raiders taking Jalen Carter. Like when you said Carter, we might not hear about him, or he might be a stud. Like I guess he does have that boomer bust potential because of the off-field concerns. I just think it'd be a very Raiders pick to pick Jalen Carter with these off-field concerns. And listen, I hope he does well. Obviously, I hope he is a stud, and I hope he drops to 10 so the Eagles can take him. You know what I mean? Like I hope for all these things, but I just think it'd be a very Raiders pick to get Jalen Carter here. So I have Will Levis dropping. This is a very common spot for Will Levis, but I wanted to do something differently. And so Will's dropping right now. So they're taking Jalen Carter at 7.
I know people like Will. I don't think Will is that much of a, oh crap, we have to draft him in the first 10 or he's not going to be there. Like you could get him later and be okay. But again, I also have something fancy planned for that. So we'll get there. However, I'm going to draft like I am the Raiders. And what do the Raiders draft almost every freaking season in the first round? an offensive tackle, or a corner, ladies and gentlemen. So I think Christian Gonzalez will be the next Las Vegas Raider corner. That could either be boom or bust. However, the thing that I like about this, it's not reachy for the Raiders. It's not a reachy corner, which means the Raiders will not pick him in the first round. But if the Raiders were smart, this is what you should do. Take one of these guys, Witherspoon, take Porter, whichever one you tend to like better. I just think Gonzalez is more rangy than the other guys and can kind of do a little bit more for you in the zone. But
they have reached a lot in their drafts.
Yes,
like a lot. Like even before the Mike Mayox of the world. Gosh, I can't talk. Before that, I mean, it was Al Davis, right? It was Al Davis, and he was picking Darius Hayward Bay at pick like 12. And he shouldn't have gone. You know what I mean? Like they're notorious for drafting players way too high. I don't think Carter or Gonzalez are drafted high here or too high. But
so we should have put somebody random.
Someone like maybe Miles Murphy or
Emmanuel
Forbes or like Sidney Brown or something. I don't know, like someone like that.
Yeah.
And they would make a little bit more sense. But I think best players on the board, both these guys probably are. And I think they would be happy with either of these guys, but for you too, Will Levis is dropping, so we'll see where he goes. Pick number 8 here. The Falcons taking a Bijan Robinson. This is interesting.
I can't wait for you to talk your way into this one.
Listen, the Falcons are with Arthur Smith. What they did with Derrick Henry was we're going to ram the ball down your throat. Okay, and they had Tannehill with Derrick Henry. They had Marcus Mariota with Derrick Henry. Neither of those guys are great quarterbacks, let's be honest. Athletic, but not great. With the Falcons, they have Desmond Ridder, and they just announced a couple days ago that he's the starter. Do I believe it? No, but that's what we're going with right now, that he's the presumptive starter. He's going to start week 1. And what do quarterbacks need? They need a solid running game. I like what Tyler Algier did. I do. I think Bijan's a lot better. And I think their offensive line, pass blocking, not great, but run blocking, they're really good at it. And that's why they got Chris Lindstrom back. That's why they got Caleb McGarry back to beat the living heck out of defensive linemen and linebackers on the second level. And if you can get Bijan to the second level, man, he could be gone. And I don't think there's a receiver worth taking right here, honestly.
No.
But a running back, Bijan, he's one of the best players in this draft. So I don't know. I think it'd be weird, but like I think it makes sense.
I was highly sus about where Bijan went, and you're gonna laugh about it later. So with that being said, I think this is a double corner pick. I think you go Gonzalez Witherspoon here because you've said it before. AJ Terrell is kind of a lockdown artist, but he can't do it by himself. I'd love to see him paired with Witherspoon or Gonzalez there, and just kind of be the new Island Boys of Atlanta and just shut everybody down. And it'd be kind of cool to see because they play in a very weak division. They really do. The quarterbacks are not great. I mean, I love Derek Carr, but what the heck is Derek Carr going to do with broken leg Michael Thomas and Chris Olave? Like, it's going to go to in Taysom Hill. Sorry. I'm sorry. How dare I forget Taysom Hill in there? So I just think if you have some lockdown corners, you force them to do things they don't want to do, and suddenly you run that division for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Because remember when the Falcons made it to the Super Bowl the last time, their offense was good, but their defense was much better. And I think they need to get back to that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they do go corner here. They got Jesse Bates this offseason too, so their secondary would be looking real nice.
Yeah,
with all those guys. Talk about Island. All right, Chicago Bears at pick 9. I have them taking Paris Johnson out of Ohio State, tackle. If you looked at his combine, his pro day, man, he looked super athletic out there. Like he looked
like a tight end.
He looked like Lane Johnson, like from the Eagles. Yeah. And I know I make references to it, but Lane Johnson is legitimately one of the best tackles in the league in the last 8 years. So screw you guys. Like, get off my hop off. Like, I can talk about this. Like, Paris Johnson looked like Lane Johnson out there from an athletic perspective. The way he was able to just move around and set his feet and man, like I think as a tackle, he has potential to be like one of the best. I really do. So Chicago Bears need a tackle, they need a guard, they need offensive line, anything really to help Justin up front. I think that makes a lot of sense there. And if I were a Bears fan, I'd absolutely love it.
I have them taking Skoronski. I still think tackle is the biggest need.
Mhm.
Had I had the chance to change this more recently, I probably would stick Paris Johnson here because he's just an absolute freak. I almost put Jackson Smith and Jigba here, but I don't like. You can get him help all you want, but I just don't think this is the year to get him quality help. Go get somebody in the 4th round because they're going to do just as well as somebody from the 1st round because there's no stud
Right.
in the 1st round outside Jackson Smith and Jigba. And even then, there's questions on Njigba. So
That's why you wait till next year and go get Marvin Harrison Jr.
exactly. That is exactly where I was leading up to. Or Emeka Egbuka, or like some of these big guys that are going to come out next year. So, I mean, I don't think you have to just destroy your 1st round just to take a receiver. You can do it day 2. You can do
you
it
can
day
be
3.
smart. Like you have a lot of picks, like
Yeah.
you said, next year too. Like, and you have probably a lot of money next year too. So you don't have to be like, oh, we have to get Justin Fields literally every single thing. We have to have 5 receivers that can be, you know what I mean? Like you don't need. You could, but
I
do
mean,
they
you
really
did
need
okay
5
with that bum
receivers?
Darnell Mooney and St. Brown and
I mean,
all those
they
weirdos.
got DJ Moore as well. Like,
Yeah.
like
He's
I
got
just
Cole
think,
Kmet.
yeah, I don't think you need 5 receivers because Justin Fields is still going to run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
He's still going to. You need him to. He's electric. He's dynamic. So you're not just all of a sudden going to turn into like we need 5 receivers out in the field. Let's go. Like no, you're still going to be predominantly running team, but guys that can get open when you need to pass the ball. So I think offensive line is definitely the way to go. Pick number 10, the Eagles, and them taking Kalijah Cansey here, D tackle out of Pittsburgh. I kind of wanted to change it. It was too late. It makes a lot of sense. They still go O-line, D-line. They're notorious for doing that. And I would be okay with this pick. But part of me wants to go Nolan Smith instead. But I don't think you can go wrong with a pass rushing D tackle. So,
and the truth is, Cansey and Smith both had excellent combines.
Mhm.
So really, you just pick what flavor of defensive player you want because both are really great.
Yeah, both really killed at the combine for sure. Pick number 11. I have the Titans taking Jackson Smith and Jigba, receiver out of Ohio State. Like we said multiple times, Titans receivers are booty. They're booty cheeks. They're awful. Jackson Smith and Jigba can definitely help them day one step in and produce and probably have a Chris Olave type of role. So I think
Kyle's going to hate me. Here comes the hate. So the Titans did something really stupid last offseason and traded away a premier receiver for their 1st round pick. I think they want a receiver back, but I don't think they're willing to draft somebody. I think they're going to be insane. I just hear me out on this. Hear me out on this. So I like Mike Evans, but Mike Evans is getting old, right? And I think the Buccaneers are not going to survive with Baker Mayfield. It doesn't matter who he's throwing to. He couldn't do it he couldn't do it with the Browns. He couldn't do it with the Rams. He couldn't do it with the Panthers. What makes you think he's going to do it with the Bucs? Fling him, grab a couple extra picks, get pick 11, and then go get Will Levis.
Wow, that's 3 quarterbacks now. You got Kyle Trask, Baker Mayfield, and Will Levis. Those are 3 really good quarterbacks, man. Like, why do they need 3? I'm just kidding. They're not great. I understand it. I think there will be a trade up for Will Levis.
I think Godwin is more important to the Buccaneers than Mike Evans at this point. But you can make an argument for either one. I just think Godwin, when healthy, has more deep threat than Mike Evans does. Mike Evans, though, is reliable, just so reliable.
I think there are a little bit different receivers, but I don't think you can have them both on a rebuilding type of team. You know what I mean? I don't think it makes sense to have both on a rebuilding type of team. So, yeah, I think that could happen. I don't know if Will Levis would be the target.
Trade.
What's that?
Oh, I said, and it's crazy enough to be a draft day trade. They always trade some random star that we don't expect to move, and then they just go.
Yeah. If I were them and Richardson dropped, I think I would trade up. If Will Levis dropped, honestly, if I were, I wouldn't do it. I don't know. I'd just be like, okay, he's dropping. Let's just stay where we're at. But yeah, Baker Mayfield, man, Kyle Trask, Will Levis, oof, what a dynamic and white quarterback.
A bunch of white guys. Woo!
All right, pick number 12 here. I have the Houston Texans taking Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern here. We went and got our quarterback at pick number 2. Let's go ahead and get an offensive lineman here with our next pick. They got rid of A.J. Cann. They traded him, actually. Or no, they traded for Shaq Mason. They got rid of A.J. Cann.
And they retained Laramie Tunsil, right?
Tunsil, but I think stocking up on that offensive line is
important.
And they have the running back room. The receivers aren't great, but again, I think if Smith and Jigba goes before here, I wouldn't take Quentin Johnson. I don't know. Like, I think you can trade back and get him. So I think Skoronski's the best offensive player on the board for me. So
I'm trying to remember what I did. Okay, yeah, I'm right. Nolan Smith, edge out of Georgia. He had the best combine we've seen in a hot minute. And let's be honest, D'Amico Ryans is going to want to build that defense to more his flavor. And I think if you can get a speedy guy who's going to get back to the backfield very quickly and have not J.J. Watt, but a J.J. Watt-esque, somebody that's just reliable getting back there and hitting the quarterback and pressuring them and forcing them to do stupid things, that's Nolan Smith. And I think it just really aligns with what he wants as a defensive-minded coach. Skoronski would be great if I still had Skoronski. I do have Paris Johnson, but I just have a feeling he's going to go offense, defense, and try to get somebody he wants on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, D'Amico needs pass rushers for sure. So that makes a lot of sense. Pick number 13, I have the Jets taking Broderick Jones, tackle out of Georgia. Who knows with the Aaron Rodgers crap? I'm about done with it. I don't know about you.
I've been done with it.
If I were the Jets, I would honestly think about using this pick and another pick to trade up for a quarterback or go get Lamar Jackson. Seriously. Like, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, and I know this isn't an Aaron Rodgers podcast right now talking about the draft, but I have to say this. Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. We've talked about he's only had one Super Bowl, but he's only had one Super Bowl win, and he's 38. It's not a guarantee that he's going to go out in the tough AFC and get them to the bowl. Look at all the quarterbacks he's facing. This isn't the NFC where it's just Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy. Like, this is Patrick Mahomes. This is Josh Allen. This is Joe Burrow. That's tough. Super, super tough. So I don't know. After all this drama, it would have me rethinking my plan, I think, and go after a quarterback here, trading up for one, or trading for Lamar Jackson. But this is assuming they do get Aaron Rodgers and they need to protect him. Again, Mekhi Becton, not really sure about him. He's a little bit of a wild card. So I still think you should draft a tackle or a tackle that could possibly play guard at the next level.
Paris Johnson, because Mekhi Becton is a hoe. There you go.
Oh, my gosh. Next pick here. Patriots at pick number 14. I have them taking Brian Branch, safety out of Alabama. I think there's so much that Belichick could do with Brian Branch, honestly. And he might fall in this draft. I hope he does. Again, falls to the Eagles. But Jalen Mills, they re-signed him. But that's just to a one-year deal. They lost a corner in free agency last year. J.C. Jackson. McCourty retired. I think they have a lot of needs on their secondary. And a guy like Branch can play safety and nickel who can blitz as well. That's just that's a chess piece for Billy. So, and I think he's pretty good friends with Nick Saban as well. So I think it makes sense for Brian Branch to go to Bill Belichick.
It absolutely makes sense. However, I want to make a play here for Mac Jones because that poor man has been throwing to bums his whole career, including you, Nelson Aguilar. I don't care that you're a Raven. You heard it here first. You know what? I think that's what I'm going to make the clip from this episode. is that right there. Where are we at? 29 minutes. I'll remember that and come back to it. Anyways, Jackson Smith and Jigba. He is the best receiver in this draft. I think it finally gives the Patriots a wide receiver one. The only con I have with the Patriots taking a receiver in the first round, they don't really do that ever at all, except for maybe 3 times. So it would have to be somebody special. I think he has the potential to be really special. And let's be honest, they need all the help they can get on the offense right now. So
yeah, it's not looking too good.
No.
All right, 15. I think you're up first on this one.
I am. I have Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah. I think he should be the tight end one taken in this draft. He's pretty stellar. With the Aaron Rodgers thing in limbo, take the best weapon you have. Assume that Rodgers is coming back next year. If not, help Jordan Love. What do we always say about first-year or rookie quarterbacks? Give them a tight end that is very reliable to catch the ball for them. And I think Kincaid fits that bill for the Packers.
Yeah, here I went in big trade here, kind of a big trade. Packers are trading pick 15 to the Lions for pick 18 and a 2024 third-round pick. The Lions move up 3 spots, and they select Will Levis, quarterback out of Kentucky. I like Jared Goff. I do, but I don't think he's the long-term answer for the Lions. And Will Levis, who needs a lot of developmental work, I think this could be a nice fit. I think out of a lot of teams here, Will Levis would thrive on this team. I don't think he would thrive with the Raiders. I don't think he would thrive with the Vikings. I just think this is a really good spot for him to learn under Jared Goff and to be in that culture. So Will Levis, the Lions. He doesn't have to change his colors that much. Boom, we're good.
White guy QB room. Let's go to pick 16. Commanders. Who do you have for the Commanders, Kyle?
Pick 16. The Commanders select Devin Witherspoon, corner out of Illinois. We've talked about their pass rush. It's elite. I like what they did with their offensive line room. Okay, I don't love it, but I think it means they're probably not going to take one in round 1. But the secondary is still a massive need for them. It's bad. Their front seven's great, but if your defense is still pretty mid, it probably means because your secondary is trash. So Devin Witherspoon can help them out for sure. Give them a little bit of dog on that secondary room. So,
yep. I don't like what they did with their offensive line. And I think when you have a guy like Osiris Torrance fall into your lap, who is literally an immovable object, you take him because you've got 8 running backs now, 9. If you want to devote to the run game, that's great. Go get a guy that's really premier in the run game. He had 1,504 snaps, gave up 0 sacks. Now, when you don't know who you want your quarterback to be for next year, I would go ahead and say it is a safe bet to grab somebody who is really, really secure, because he did that in the SEC. That is not a small feat to give up no sacks in the SEC. So I like him. He even played well against Jalen Carter. I think it would just be a good fit for the Commanders. But before we move on, let's hear from our sponsors. Fresh Cuts is our amazing sponsor who has been with us since 2020. Fresh Cuts is the local barbershop hangout in Marion, Indiana. If you're looking for a full-service barber with excellent cuts and a welcoming atmosphere, contact Caleb Kemper for an appointment time through www.freshcutsbarbershop.com. Mondays are the best days to get in, although he has plenty of time slots available. And if you happen to miss us live, you'll be hearing us in the shop while you enjoy your fresh cut. Slide on by to Fresh Cuts to pick up some stylish footwear with Caleb's Fresh Kicks collection. From Nike to Jordans, he offers the best price for quality kicks. And if you don't find what you like, Caleb offers custom work for $250. Stop over to 1224 North Baldwin Ave in Marion to pick up yours today, or Caleb also ships all over the U.S. Message him for prices and sizes. Our other people we sponsor, Steve Wood Illustrations and Ronald Morell for Mayor. Check out their respective pages on Facebook. And our other friends at other podcasts, the Culture Corner podcast, 1,000 Wives of Weird, and Rules of the Frame. Check them out on their respective platforms listed below.
Steelers at pick 17. That's where we left off. I have them taking Deontay Banks, corner, out of Maryland. I've mocked Joey Porter quite a bit on this podcast, but I went a little bit different, a little bit more athletic freak type of corner. I love Porter's long arms, don't get me wrong. I think he's good in the right system, but I think Deontay Banks is a little bit of a different flavor, and I think he's a guy that's rising up quickly and might be a mid-first round draft pick. So, taking Banks.
I don't remember what I did, so I'm going to click the button. Aha! Brian Branch. That's right. Sorry. The secondary for the Steelers is a lacking. And when you lose Edmonds, you're kind of looking for a safety that's going to be locked down. I know you got Minkah Fitzpatrick, but can you just picture with me for a second? Minkah and Brian Branch in that secondary, disgusting. And if you're a Steelers fan, I think you should start getting to know Brian Branch. They have shown they are not shy from taking Alabama players recently, and for good reason. Brian Branch to the Steelers at pick 17.
Nice. Pick 18 here. I think you're up first.
That is correct. I have them taking Joey Porter Jr. Now, listen. There's lots of things they could do. Almost put Michael Mayer here. But, look, some of these guys they've picked aren't elite. They're good. They're not elite. And that bothers me, that this is kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. You know, like, it's going to work, but for how long? Especially when you have a chance to go to the playoffs. They almost went to the playoffs last year.
Playoffs?
The Lions. Playoffs.
Playoffs?
Like, you can't take some Joe Schmo and say, that's good enough. This is the first round of the draft. This is where the premier guys are going to go. And there is one premier corner left that I would say out of all of them. The rest of them are really, really great. They are. But Joey Porter is just premier. He is just next level. And I think if you are going to go on and compete in that division that's kind of in flux right now, go get a premier corner. Let him learn. Let him start. Figure out where you want him to be. But I think he plugs and plays insanely well early.
I agree. Green Bay, because of this weird little trade, but the Lions got Will Levis. The Packers are selecting Brian Brisset, D-tackle, defensive end, whatever you want him to do, out of Clemson. They are notorious for picking D linemen. They picked Devontae Wyatt last year. Kenny Clark was a big guy for them as well. B.J. Raji, when they got him, like they like these defensive linemen. And Brian Brisset is a little bit different, but they definitely need help on that front line there. They got some good secondary pieces. They could go safety as well, but Brian Branch has already gone on my board, so I think Brian Brisset. I would have rather them taking a Dalton Kincaid here or Michael Mayer, but I think Brian Brisset is more of a Packers pick.
It really is. I agree with that. So you'll be first here because I traded the Buccaneers picks with the Titans.
Right. I have the Buccaneers taking Joey Porter Jr. corner at pick 19. Listen, the Bucs have lost a lot of pieces in that secondary. Not everybody came back, and they got a solid front seven with Devin White. They signed back with Levante David. D-line still solid, but secondary's hurting for sure. And offensive line is as well, but again, most of these guys went before pick 19 here for me, so I think Joey Porter is the best player on the board.
And let's go over to the Titans. What are the Titans going to take? A receiver. They're going to double down on receiver.
Mike Evans and Quentin Johnson. Wow, that is like a total 360 with their wide receiver.
It is, but here's my pitch for that. Even if you get Mike Evans, you're going to get a max 2 or 3 years from Mike Evans, which is still good. That's good enough to make a push in a very weak division for a Super Bowl, for a playoff push. That's great. The question is Tannehill. What's Tannehill's window? Derrick Henry, if you're going to trade him, what's his window? If you get rid of some of your best players on offense, I'm not calling Tannehill one of the best players on offense. I'm talking about Derrick Henry. Don't even start with me, you trolls. If you get rid of Derrick Henry, that leaves you with Mike Evans and nothing. Because Burks is still in the air as, is he elite? Is he just okay? We don't know enough yet. I think it's crazy enough for them to go get another receiver and double down with Mike, Treylon Burks, Quentin Johnston, turn it into a passing offense, a full passing offense if you're going to get rid of Derrick Henry. So I know this looks crazy. Just assume that they are still getting rid of Derrick Henry for this pick to work out.
I like it. I mean, if this happens, they have a really good receiving room. I still don't think I still don't think Titans fans will be happy.
No.
They'll be like, I want AJ Brown back. Well, you can't have it. Sorry.
Let him go. Sorry.
Let him go. Seahawks, I had them taking Jordan Addison. I love DK Metcalf on the outside. I love Tyler Lockett, but he's getting up there. I think he'll be a trade candidate in like a year or so. So I think you need a really good route runner with Seattle. DK Metcalf is a very good downfield threat. Don't get me wrong. Extremely fast. He's like Batman, all those memes. But they need a route runner. They need a guy who can get open, and Jordan Addison is that guy. I don't think, Dwayne Eskridge? I don't think he's lived up to, first of all, what kind of name is that anyway? But, I don't think he's lived up to his billing. So receiver is still a need, especially if Lockett will be gone in a couple of years. So Jordan Addison, I think, can start day one, produce day one. And, I mean, Geno was one of the most accurate passers in the league last year. I mean, it's just, oof. That's nice to get a guy who can get open. And you also have Geno who can get it to him on the go, on the run, and put him in position to make plays.
I like it. I have them taking Broderick Jones. I think if you are going to invest in Geno, which I thought was a pretty good move, there's no hate here. However, I do think the problem that Russell Wilson suffered from that I think that is going to pass down to Geno is that O-line still needs some help. Both sides of the ball need help. Now, we got them someone on defense. Let's go ahead and sling somebody on offense and start helping that O-line shore up a little better, help Kenny Walker, help Geno Smith, help get the ball out a little faster. And then you could go get a Jordan Addison or a Tank Dell or a Jalen Hyatt or somebody in the second round.
I like it. Yeah, it's a good pick. Next pick here, Chargers are 21. I have them taking Nolan Smith.
Ooh.
Here's where it makes sense. In my head, no one can stop Patrick Mahomes, right? It seems like impossible at this point. But I think what teams want to do is get these premier pass rushers to influence Patrick Mahomes to make him make mistakes. Like that's the goal. That's why the Bills got Von Miller, right? That's why the Chargers got Khalil Mack. And they're hoping that they can be in those serious playoff games. I think they can be with Justin Herbert. That's why the Eagles went out and got, Hassan Reddick. Like, once you eventually play a guy like Patrick Mahomes, you need pass rush to get to him, because if you don't, he'll pick you apart. Bengals, why did they beat the Chiefs a couple years ago or a year ago? Pass rush. Like, it was Trey Hendrickson. It was guys like that. And I really do believe that if a team had like a Micah Parsons in the playoffs, like if the Bills had Micah Parsons in the playoffs last year, I think the Bills would have won, because Micah can get to the quarterback that quickly. I think Nolan Smith has the potential to do that.
I wouldn't put him on the level of Micah, though. Micah can literally do anything.
I know, but like the way Nolan Smith performed in his college career and on the combine level, like I think they can use him as a chess piece and really just slice and dice and get in the backfield. And Khalil Mack is not a long-term answer anymore. He may not even be an answer anymore. I don't really know about him, but getting someone to pair up with Bosa long-term, I think, is smart and is needed if you want to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs.
I like it. The other way that you beat teams in the playoffs is by having somebody to pass to. Keenan Allen. Dude was out the whole freaking season. And then you had Mike Williams go down. And then we were playing Josh Palmer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we were really digging for receivers there in fantasy.
Yeah.
I think Keenan's days are numbered. I think so. But I think Mike Williams can play that Keenan Allen role, which means you go get a speed threat to play Mike Williams' old role, and things keep rolling. Plus, it would be really nice to give Kellen Moore this really nice Swiss Army knife kind of a receiver to just dominate, because this is a passing league. Like, if you can't pass, I love Eckler to death. I love Austin Eckler. but he's not going to be their whole offense. Like he's not LT. He's not Adrian Peterson. Like he's still really good, but he's not those guys that just touch the field and take over. So you need somebody that can do that. And I think a receiver is going to help because the guy that's going to take over is the guy behind center. So you got to help him out somehow. So.
Yeah. And if you can't beat Mahomes by rushing him, and you have to outscore him.
You got to outscore him.
So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Pick 22, I have the Ravens taking. You'll like this, Quentin Johnson. Rumors are the Ravens are in search for another receiver. I don't know how true that is, but I think Quentin Johnson would be a good pick. I think he's different from the guys that they've had. I feel like for the most part, they get these tiny little fast guys who are old, or they just deal with Mark Andrews. I think Quentin Johnson's a little bit different. He's built a little bit different. He's big and he's fast and he has good hands and he can win on jump balls. So different receiver than the Ravens have had, but I think potential to be a really good one.
Most receivers are gone. It is now Anthony Richardson behind center, which means let's create the scariest backfield that's ever existed, Kyle. Let's throw Bijan Robinson with Anthony Richardson. Two quick, speedy guys. Bijan would destroy. We have literally no running backs. Everyone that we have is like on their third broken leg, so like we don't have anybody. Like receiver, fine, whatever. Do I think it's going to happen in this draft? No, because there's no tough dog at 22. You'd have to trade up to 10, and we don't have the capital to give up to go that high. Like we do if we're going to go get like somebody big. But after the Lamar trade, it just makes sense to go get somebody flashy, somebody big. You have to reestablish who the Ravens are at this point. Mm-hmm. And if you stick Anthony Richardson and Bijan together, you don't stop that offense. Todd Monken has so many things to play with Mark Andrews, Nelson Aguilar, Bijan Robinson, Anthony Richardson, Rashad Bateman.
A disgruntled Rashad Bateman.
You have so many things to do. I just think the Ravens are about to go through a rebuild, and I think if you're going to do it, go get two of the flashiest guys in the draft and build around them. So, yeah, I told you wouldn't like this.
That's scary, dude. Yeah. Anthony Richardson, Bijan, a disgruntled.
It's such a favoritism. It's such a favoritism pick for this.
It'd be really funny too if the GMs came on after this pick, right? And they're like, "What did you see in this draft? Like, why did you get rid of Lamar?" He's like, "Listen, man. We got Richardson, we got Bijan Robinson, and don't count out a disgruntled Rashad Bateman. That's key here." Yeah, but you're right though. If they do get rid of Lamar, they need to really win back the fan base in a hurry.
A disgruntled Rashad Bateman and the reanimated corpse of Gus Edwards.
Yeah. And J.K. Dobbins has a new ACL again. So watch out. Pick 23. Here, I'm up first. I think you got something spicy. I have them taking Lucas Van Ness. He could range anywhere from probably 8 to the end of the first round. I don't know where he's going to go, but I do think he has the potential to be a very good defensive end. He could slide in a D tackle too. Vikings need a lot of new help on that defensive line. But Lucas Van Ness, from what I've seen of him, I don't know where to put him. It doesn't seem like he's like the quickest guy in the world, but he bullies people. And he
doesn't have enough play time or tape. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's risky. Like I think he could be really good, but it is risky. But I think he could play day one and contribute a lot, no doubt. I just don't know about like long term how he's going to fit. So
I'm ready to make you sad. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Trey Lance to the Vikings for pick 23, 2023 third, and a 2024 second. I think anyone at this point could fleece the 49ers to get Trey Lance. This is not me saying Trey Lance sucks. This is me saying the 49ers have no idea what they're doing with their quarterback situation. And I think if they get a shiny nickel, which could be a first-round pick, they'll trade him because they're so enamored with Brock Purdy that so much that I hate it. But I understand. If you think you've gotten your strong-armed man in the back half of your quarterback roster, you got to move stuff out to move him up. And you added Sam Darnold. So you're making it really confusing, guys. Like,
you know what the 49ers don't need anymore?
A quarterback.
white quarterback.
Oh gosh, it would happen if they moved Trey Lance. But I think you could really fleece him, and I think the Vikings need to finally accept that Kirk Cousins is great at 1:00. He's terrible at 7:30. Like you know what I mean? Like,
all right,
you
guys,
have
we're
to
having
admit it.
Kirk Cousins at 1, Trey Lance here on at 7:30. That's how we're doing it. Man. I think this makes a lot of sense. Trey Lance to the Vikings. I just don't know if it'll be this much. Like, I like the fit. I just think, like you said, the 49ers are going to be like we don't want Trey Lance anymore. We trust in Brock Purdy, and let's just find a home for him. And I think that they're not going to get as much as they want.
I would probably do pick 1 in the 3rd rounder. I threw in the 2nd just because the Vikings might be desperate enough to say, hey, we'll give you more than this guy over here if you'll give us Trey Lance.
No, maybe it could work like they swap quarterbacks. Trey Lance goes to the Vikings, Kirk Cousins goes to the – I don't know.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
It might work.
And then the 49ers will go and grab Lucas Van Ness for the same reasons. Go help out that defense. Go help out the other Bosa brother. Their defense is really good, but I feel like they're like one pass rusher away from being the defense in the NFL. And I think you kind of have to take a risk on Lucas Van Ness here because there's guys. You could go get Adetomiwa Adebaware. You could get Felix and Adike Uzoma.
Dude, look at you nailing those names.
II. Huh?
Look at you nailing those names.
Practice. Will McDonald IV. There's a whole bunch of guys that could go here. But I think Lucas Van Ness, you're right, has such a high potential ceiling that you just can't pass him up. And I think the Niners want to get in the 1st round and pick something to help out because their offense is loaded but questionable at quarterback. But their defense, that's the cream of the crop that could bring them a Super Bowl. And I think you're just one or two players away from having the defense in the NFL.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Jaguars here at 24. I have them taking Dalton Kincaid. A little bit different than Evan Ingram, but I think you can have them on the same field at the same time. I think this is a tight end that Doug Peterson would love. He reminds me a lot of a Zach Ertz, of a Travis Kelce. Maybe he's not the best blocker in the world yet, but a guy who can win in the middle of the field easily, who can do a lot of good things with the ball in his hand after the catch. And again, I think Evan Ingram is just on a 1-year deal right now. So
yeah,
you could put them both on the field, and Doug loves just a lot of options. I think it's just another really good option. He loves matchups too. Dalton Kincaid would be a matchup nightmare, especially if you have an Evan Ingram on the field as well. So I think he will go before 24. But if he doesn't, I think the Jaguars would scoop him up in a heartbeat.
It would make sense too. Their second need is corner for sure. I think Deontay Banks will probably go higher than 24. I have the opposite problem you have. But it just didn't make sense to sling him anywhere that I had going on. But the Jaguars will happily take him for a very secondary needy team.
I like it. Giants here at 25. I have them taking Zay Flowers, receiver out of Boston College. Giants receivers stink, for sure, no doubt. Zay Flowers can do a lot with the ball in his hand. He can be a good return man as well. You just need some more dynamic play on the field, some more dynamic play on the outside or on the inside for Daniel Jones. He can't do it just with Saquon. You need someone scary on the outside. And I think Zay Flowers would be a really good pick, a really good player on the Giants. I think his demeanor is a little bit like Stephon Diggs too, who Daboll was with the Bills. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Speaking of receivers, I have Jordan Addison going here, kind of for the same reason you're talking about. They don't have a number one guy for Daniel Jones. This would be an easy way to address that. Flowers, Addison, either one would be really good for them. Addison just happened to be the odd man out for me in this draft. So that'll take us to 26, which is the Cowpokes. What'd you have the old boys doing?
Michael Mayer, tight end out of Notre Dame. They need someone like a Jason Witten. I think Michael Mayer could be Jason Witten. Witten wasn't the most agile guy in the world, but he was like another tackle out in the field in terms of pass blocking, run blocking. And when he got the ball in his hands, he was hard to bring down, and he could catch the ball really well. He had big mitts. He had big oven mitts. So I think Michael Mayer makes a lot of sense here for a team that wants to keep surrounding Dak Prescott with weapons.
Agreed. Let's go to pick 27, the Bills.
Nice. I have the Bills taking Darnell Wright. I think he's a guy that could slide into the end of the first round. I'm not a big believer right now in Anton Harrison versus Darnell Wright. I think Darnell might sneak ahead of him. I think this would be a good spot for the Bills. A guy who can step in day one and produce. He's played a lot of games in his career, and he's just a really solid tackle. And they need guys who can step on the field and play and win and pass protect. I don't think they have the room to get a developmental type of guy and hope he can turn out. They can't use that right now. They need a guy who can step on the field and protect Josh Allen. I think Darnell Wright could do that.
I had a similar thought, but I went center with John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota. You can't win the game of football when your center is incredibly questionable. And I don't think that Schmitz is the center number one, but I think he's the one that makes the most sense for what they have. And he's the biggest center out of the top three guys, Joe Tippmann, Luke Weipler, John Michael Schmitz. John Michael Schmitz kind of has the best fit for the Bills. They like those big fat guys that can just win. They just know how to win. And you're right. That's exactly what they need right now. They can't afford to sit on a Luke Weipler and say, okay, in 2 years, you'll be good to go. Can't afford to sit on Joe Tippmann and say, in a couple years, you'll get it. They can't do that. They need somebody to plug and play and win now. I agree with you. And I just have them taking a center, but I would have happily have taken Darnell Wright here also.
Nice. Next pick, I have the Bengals taking. Here we go. Adebaware. Almost got defensive end, D tackle out of Northwestern. Like I said, with the Nolan Smith, the Chargers pick, pass rush is the way to go for these teams. They definitely need some more help in safety because of how much they lost. But again, I don't know if there's a safety worth taking here. I think Antonio Johnson is a little bit of a reach, as would be Sidney Brown, I think, or Jair Brown. So Adebaware can do a lot of things for that defensive line room. I know you got Hendrickson, and I know the rest of your guys can play too, but just having depth on that defensive line, I think just can take them to where they want to go. I think they're a team that's all about pass rush in the front seven. So just keep adding on to that. So,
speaking of things I'm not entirely in love with, they are having problems with the O-line. I can't names are happening. I have baby brain really bad. But didn't their tackle request a trade? Like he was just like, nah, I'm out. Forget this.
Yeah, Jonah Williams. Yeah, they did get Orlando Brown, but Lale Collins is probably going to get cut if he didn't already. Jonah Williams wants out, so yeah, for sure they could use another lineman.
And Darnell Wright is a big old boy, so I think it'd be a good fit for them. Let's go to 29 with the Saints. Kyle, what did you have the big old Saints doing here?
Miles Murphy, defensive end out of Clemson. I wasn't really sure, still not really sure where to put Miles Murphy at. Honestly, he's, he kind of scares me a little bit. I don't know. I think I'm just getting like PTSD from Cleveland Farrell. I think Miles Murphy is just a better athletically than he was, but I just don't know about long-term upside. However, their defensive line room is getting weaker and weaker by the minute. It really is. They lost a couple D tackles in free agency. They lost Marcus Davenport to the Vikings in free agency. Cameron Jordan is old. They need someone who can possibly take over for Cam Jordan. So I think Miles Murphy can set that kind of tone.
You convinced me. And now I have Jahmyr Gibbs mocked to the Saints. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm trying not to be all over Jahmyr Gibbs, but I will say the dude has a high ceiling. He could be the next Alabama guy. The problem is he didn't get as much production as he would have liked in running at Alabama, but Alabama's not really a run-first team anymore. They're very much of a pass-first team. So He got a lot in receptions, but not a lot in rushing. And I think that's going to concern teams because he went from Georgia Tech, to Alabama, and it should have been better.
Yeah.
Also, the second funny thing here is I picked Miles Murphy last time and Kyle picked Jahmyr Gibbs last time. So we have now flipped our thoughts on who we've picked.
Eagles up next here and going along the same lines of offensive line, defensive line, doing it at the line of scrimmage. I've been taking Osiris Torrance, guard out of Florida. They might not need him, might not be the most needy, definitely not the most needy pick in the world, but I think Cam Jurgens could do well at guard, but I think a talent like him is sitting at 30, especially if they do go defense first. Like if they go Bijan first, I think they're just going to pick defense for the rest of the draft. But if they do pick defense first, I think at this pick 30, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is in the realm of possibility, and I think Torrance also is in the realm of possibility. So I think they'd pick either of those guys in a heartbeat.
They could, but they lost so much on their D-line that I have them taking Adetomiwa Adebaware, the D-tackle edge out of Northwestern. So here's the cool thing. Can you imagine Jordan Davis, Kalijah Cansey, Adetomiwa Adebaware? That right there is a trio that could probably last you for a while, the same as Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. That's those kind of guys. And I think you've put off replacing them for long enough that this is the year to do it.
Yeah.
And you'll still probably get Gibbs in the second round if the Saints are stupid, which the Saints typically are. So I wouldn't worry about it. You could still probably get Gibbs and then go defense for the rest of the draft. But this just feels like an Eagles pick, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you make a lot of sense with replacing Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox. They have been wanting to do it for a while, but haven't had the guts to do it. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I hate you for it.
Howie, let's do it.
I hate you for it, but it makes a lot of sense. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know.
It makes a lot of sense. Next, Chiefs at 31, Jalen Hyatt. I think he can go in the first round. I think he's a massive deep threat, a guy that can take the top off the defense, a guy who can stick around for a while and do that. He doesn't have the speed of Tyreek Hill, but it's still really good. Scantling's average. Juju went somewhere else to the Patriots. Good luck there, TikTok boy. So receiver is still a need. Now they might go ahead and trade for a Hopkins or what have you, but I think the Cardinals want too much for him. I think the Broncos want too much for Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. So I don't know if that's going to be an option for them. So I think getting a deep threat for Mahomes makes a lot of sense. And considering Zay Flowers is gone already, I think Jalen Hyatt is a good pick here.
Or they just don't like their options and they trade out of the first round, which is entirely possible. We've seen it happen a lot with people. The last couple picks are just kind of like, meh, my guy's gone, screw it. Somebody who wants to get into the first round after giving away everything for Deshaun Watson and realizing, crap, now we don't have the capital to build for Deshaun Watson? The Browns. I think the Chiefs could trade with the Browns, and I think it's going to cost the Browns a lot to do it. Tommy Togiai is good, but kind of expendable at this point after they signed Tomlinson. The Chiefs need D tackles. They have a glaring need on their defensive line. And I think they could address it with a young guy, and they could get some more capital and still go get a Tank Dell, a Josh Downs. You can still go get somebody that you like without having to give up the farm for somebody you're iffy on. Now, here's where I'm really going to sell you, Kyle. Can you picture an offense with Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Jalen Hyatt? That, I think, would be enough to pull Deshaun Watson out of whatever crap he did last season when he played, because he looked like hot garbage. He looked like he had never played football in his life. So I think the Browns are super serious about getting him some better weapons. You have Nick Chubb. You have Amari Cooper. You just got Elijah Moore. I think Jalen Hyatt is that one missing piece that helps you take over that whole division. Because think about it, man. The Steelers are meh. The Ravens without Lamar, and I'm not even going to talk about the Bengals, because the Bengals are either we're really great or we really suck. Like, there's no in between. Yeah. You stop Jamar Chase, you stop their whole offense. So, and Joe Mixon likes to flash guns at kids. So there's probably not going to have a run game next year. So, There's that. So I think you have to invest in your offense because the only way you're going to beat these teams is to beat them down, and you need Deshaun Watson to step up. And I think if you're the Browns organization and you go and you get him these weapons and he doesn't deliver, ruh-roh, you made a bad trade, which I think you did anyways. But still, if you give him the weapons, it's on him at that point, not the organization. So
I don't know. I like it. I think the Browns should have gotten someone better and went after a disgruntled Rashad Bateman. That's just me, but that option's out there. So.
Yeah.
Okay, that was our Jock Mock 3.0. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching. And again, guys, don't miss out. Tuesday, 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time, April 4th. We got Jason Powith, assistant strength and conditioning coach from Alabama, coming on, answering our questions. Really cool dude. Will provide a lot of insight to the program, to the players, and everything that he does on a daily basis. We're so excited for that. So thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.